Yeah, so I wanted to start off this series with a little bit where I beckon you to sit by the fire and listen to my tale, but we don't need that shit. We're not here for atmosphere or creativity, we're here for some fucking Resident Evil 8, am I right? Shooting some vampires, maybe a few werewolves, so let's do this! Oh, and it starts with a tale. Okay.
Berries for her father, who was hard at work. But the forest greeted them with a dark, cold silence, the bushes empty. Yet determined to find the berries, the rascal broke free from Mother's grasp and vanished into the trees. Mother's worried cries faded fast as the girl ran on.
This is supposed to be a Romanian fairy tale, but I'm not so sure about that. But it looks nice and functions as a bit of foreshadowing for the rest of the game. So this girl's lost in the woods, and different creatures offer to help her. The first is a giant bat who lets her drink its blood to quench her thirst. Don't know how this fits in with the rest of the game. The next creature is a skeletal weaver who sews her a dress, so she isn't cold anymore. And now I'm afraid that there are spiders in this game, but why wouldn't it be? It's Resident Evil, for God's sake. And after that, a giant fish offers her one of its scales to eat, because, yeah, that's what people do. Eating fish scales. And at last, a horse appears and offers her nothing. But since this is a dumb child, she grabs the horse's cock. To which the horse disapproves, and rightfully so. So the creatures summon a witch that traps the child in a mirror. And I guess the moral of the tale is to not take stuff from strangers and keep your fingers off their cocks. The story wasn't just shown for our benefit. It was actually Mia from Resident Evil 7 who read the story to her and Ethan's daughter Rose. It seems the two of them moved to Romania after the events in Louisiana to have a fresh start. Chris even helped them settling down in exchange for Ethan undergoing some special forces training for reasons. But not all is well in paradise. Mia represses the memories of the events in Louisiana and her role in it and reacts hostile, if not to say scary, whenever Ethan brings it up.
There's nothing wrong with my memory.
But that's not a problem for long, because after we tucked Rose into bed and observed some cheap fan service and sat down for dinner, Mia gets shot to pieces. Damn, this game goes all out right from the start. Ethan is pretty much fucked. Oh, hi Chris. So, about killing my wife? No! Oh, come on! Chris, stop it.
Why?
Yeah, they capture our daughter and knock us out. It seems that Chris has gone rogue and became a villain. Yeah, sure. We wake up a while later beside a crashed van and a dead soldier. And since there's nothing better to do, we try to find our daughter, I guess. And here I want to take a moment to say that the game looks really beautiful. I mean, right now it's dark and for all intents and purposes we're just running down a corridor. But they did a really good job with the snow and the foliage and the background and all that. It looks natural and also eerie and also doesn't get confusing. But of course it doesn't take too long until we find some of the more insane stuff. And same as in RE7, Ethan reacts a bit too understated to all of this. I mean, isn't he supposed to be the everyman who is in over his head? I get that Chris isn't faced by all this stuff, but why is Ethan so calm? Also, Crow, stop it. The game does a lot in this sequence to build up atmosphere, and it works. Also, we get treated to this marvelous sight.
Where the hell am I?
Damn, that's beautiful. There are a few fake-out scares that don't make much sense, but they keep you on edge in anticipation of the first monster. And when it appears... Ooh boy! Ethan's hand gets torn to shreds! What is it with this guy and hand mutilation? So this wolf dude takes a big bite out of Ethan's hands, so we gotta shoot him in the face. And here we learn that the game commits one of the cardinal sins of video game design. Crosshair dodging. Why do game designers resort to shit like this? It's only here to annoy you. I don't have a problem with enemies trying to evade my attacks, but why do they avoid my crosshair? It's not that they can see it. They did the same in Resident Evil 4, which this game tries to emulate to some extent, but I feel it's worse here. Maybe because of the perspective, or maybe because the enemies are a bit more potent here. After we killed the abominable wolfman, we can move on and search for our daughter in peace. Oh shit. Yeah, we've got ourselves an onslaught of enemies and have to survive for a certain amount of time in a sequence that harkens back to Resident Evil 4. We can even barricade the doors and find a shotgun. Killed enemies drop treasure and crafting material, which is a good thing. So we should try and down some of them. Just find a good spot where you can kite them and blast away. After a few minutes, the game forces us into a cutscene where we are surrounded by wolf people and this giant dude with a hammer, and then they just leave. I guess there's an explanation for this, but this made a lot more sense in Resident Evil 4. And even back then, it didn't make too much sense. After that sequence, you have one final chance to search the area for ammunition and goodies, and I have to say, I really like the level design. There are a bunch of houses with multiple entries and vantage points, full of nooks and crannies that may or may not hide some treasure. There's mud and garbage everywhere, the houses are all cramped and dirty and run down. It's really how I imagined the Romanian countryside. After we finished looking around, we proceed through a gate and find this old crone, and Ethan should really be more alarmed here. This old hag carries human skulls around and he thinks he should warn her about the danger around.
Hello? You shouldn't be out here. It's not safe.
Bitch is lucky I didn't shoot her in the face on sight.
Can you hear me?
It's you, the child's father.
Child? Hey, wait. Do you mean Rose? Is she here?
Rose! Rose, yes. She is in great danger. Since Mother Miranda brought her to the village, we have fallen into darkness.
What are you talking about? The monsters?
The castle bell heralds danger.
She spouts some cryptic nonsense about Ethan's daughter and then pisses off. And since Ethan isn't able to open the door and beat up an old woman to get more information, he just moves on.
Coming again!
Rose is here?
We find ourselves in the village square, where we can explore for a bit and even find some gemstones. Another thing they brought back from RE4. So with treasure and money, I guess there will be a merchant at some point in the game. We also come across this small shrine with a goat figurine and a warning that everyone who destroys the warding goats shall feel the wrath of Mother Miranda. Well, I don't want that to happen, and also who am I to destroy random artwork? So I guess we ignore these wooden goats and just move on. There's this overly decorated gate where we need to find 2 crests to get it open. We can find one of those near the village square, but other than that there's not much to do, so we get naturally drawn to this small chapel, where a bunch of photographs are displayed in a small shrine. Don't think that is going to be of importance. We also find a typewriter. It's a bit silly to have that thing in a chapel, but I mean, it's just a save point, so I don't really mind. Then again, it doesn't really work like the typewriters in vintage Resident Evil. There are no ink ribbons in the game. Maybe on hard? I don't know. But that's something that really annoys me. I enjoyed the resource management in the early Resident Evil games and having to be mindful about when and where to save, and you were never sure how many ink ribbons were even left to be found. Of course, at the end of each game you had a bunch of them left, but you didn't know that on your first playthrough. And it sucks that this gameplay element is just missing from modern Resident Evil games, or hidden behind the highest difficulty. Why can't it be just another option before the start of a new game? Choose your difficulty. Normal, thank you. Auto aim? No. Ink ribbons? Yes, please. Behind the chapel we find the residence of Lady Louisa. A transmission we overheard earlier asked all survivors to gather there.
Hello. If there are any survivors out there, come to Louisa's house near the fields.
But since all other ways are blocked off or locked off, we would have come here anyway. There are some lichens hiding in the fields, and this is kind of a neat idea. The enemies lie in wait for you and you have to cross the fields. You can move normally, but your view is blocked by foliage. But the lichens cause the crops to shake, so you can kinda anticipate where they are. There's also bags of flowers standing around and you are supposed to shoot them and stun nearby enemies. But I didn't know that at the time, so I didn't use it. I still made it through the fields in one piece. The gate is locked, but there's a small shack where you find these lovely people.
Stay back.
Please, don't hurt us.
Whoa. It's okay. I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just glad to see normal people at last. Have you seen any other survivors?
No. They're all in Louisa's house. And she's not answering and the gate is locked.
Quiet, girl. He's an outsider.
The father got attacked by the wolf people and will turn into one of them sooner or later. And now they're hiding in here because that bitch Louisa won't open the gate. So we climb out the window and over the wall and unlock the gate from the other side. Oh no. Locked from the other side. 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 From the other side. From the other side. From the other side. This is going to be a running theme with this game.
Louisa! Open up! It's me, Elena!
After that we try to get into the mansion, but are greeted with the barrel of a rifle. This guy really doesn't want to let us in, and he's especially suspicious about Ethan. He quickly gets put into place by Lady Louisa though, and thrown out of the house.
I said go.
Well, nice knowing you, hope you have a quick death. Louisa is like, oh no, we need to help those poor people, but if she's so compassionate, why did she bar the gate and didn't answer the door? Anyway, she leads us into the living room where we meet the rest of the survivors, who all seem to be pretty interesting characters, and I'm looking forward to them having an impact on the overall story. There's a guy who was badly hurt and a recent widow, there's Leonardo who was bitten by the lichens and his daughter Elena, and there's Lady Louisa herself, who is like the village matron, who takes care of her neighbors.
This house has protected my family for generations. And drunk or not, you are all welcome and safe in here.
There's also this drunkard who picks a fight with, well, everyone.
A worthless invalid? A stupid, wailing bitch! And you! You drag a bloody man and an outsider in here like it's nothing?
And who's the only one who doesn't join in the prayer? To the old beings.
Together as one in reverence, we call on thee within the endless dark to deliver us into fate's hands.
What is this, some Cthulhu shit?
The moon rises on black wings, so we make our sacrifice and await the light at the end. In life and in death, we give you glory, Mother Miranda.
And who is this Mother Miranda? Some patron saint? Well, we can't dwell on this for too long because Papa is going to turn into a monster and slaughters everyone.
What's wrong? Are you okay?
Damn. It's either incredibly ballsy or really dumb to kill off all the friendly NPCs we just met in one single scene. Well, not all. Elena shoots her father right in the face and then once more in the leg for good measure. That's a woman I can get behind. For real, I don't want to stand in front of her as long as she's carrying that shotgun. Oh. Well, the house is on fire, everyone's dead and we're stuck in here. With a pickup truck just parked in the kitchen. What a happy coincidence. So we find the keys as well as a sneaky screwdriver and use the truck to do absolutely nothing. Great plan, Ethan.
Ethan, are you alright?
I'm fine. Let me back up again.
The fire. There isn't any time.
Nowhere to go but up.
So Ethan and Elena climb up the stairs to escape through the window. But then Wolf Daddy appears again and calls out for his daughter.
He said my name. Father!
Wait, it's not safe! Stay there! Come on! Give me your hand!
Ethan, go! Save your daughter!
Elena!
And Elena, the good girl she is, stays with her father until the bitter end, waves goodbye to Ethan and disappears. Where'd she go? She didn't land on the car and she didn't die screaming while burning alive. She just fell through the floor. Maybe people in Romania just instantly turn into ghosts the moment they die. Well, nothing left to do in here. We jump out the window and open the little hutch outside Louisa's house with the screwdriver. And here we find the Demon Crest. Of course, Capcom. But hold on. Let's go over some things. In the chapel we found a note saying that we need 2 crests to open the way to the castle. One was right here and one was supposed to be in Matron Louisa's care. Well, the note didn't lie. Louisa really guarded the second crest, more or less. But when Ethan mentioned to Elena that he wanted to look for his daughter in the castle, she freaked out and warned him that there's nothing but blood and death.
No. That place is full of nothing but blood and death.
So tell me, how was this a peaceful and devout village before? If there were gruesome things happening in the castle right next to it? Why would the village matron keep the key to the castle? Maybe she didn't want anyone to enter the castle and that's why she kept the crest under lock? But wouldn't it be safer to just destroy the crest? Nah, something's not right here, and I believe it's the writing. After stepping through the gate back into the fields, we see the poor guy again who got thrown out by Louisa. Right as he's being killed by Mother Miranda, it seems. There's nothing we can do because Ethan doesn't move or get his gun, and the cutscene doesn't end until Mother Miranda is out of sight, and Julian, yeah, that's his name, also seemed to have turned into an instant ghost. On our way back to the castle, we come across the hag again, who still is obnoxious as hell, and Ethan still doesn't inquire about his daughter or the events that led to this massacre. Jesus, is this guy dense. So we insert the crests into the gate and step through and find ourselves in some sort of tunnel. We can't do much in here aside from being impaled and welcome to the family by this magic man.
Mother Miranda's gonna love you.
Who takes us straight to Mother Miranda. I mean, we just met her, she wasn't interested in us. But now we get a chance to meet the whole gang. There's creepy Tim Burton doll and ugly McFishface. There's the tall vampire lady who for some strange reason causes every nerd out there to cream his pants. And then there's Heisenberg, who combined his meth business and his quantum mechanics to turn people into Wolfman, it seems. This clearly is supposed to be this game's introduction of the Baker family. All these crazy characters with their little personality quirks. But with the Bakers, it worked. We were trapped in a house with a crazy family. It was relatable in a way, and it wasn't too absurd. This? What's this supposed to be? This isn't scary. These are fun fantasy characters. I like how they are presented, but last time I checked, I played a survival horror game. Not even the mindless animal people can stay mindless animals, because the next thing that happens is Heisenberg putting on a show for his fellow werewolves.
Lycans and gentlemen, we thank you for waiting. And now let the games begin!
Let's see what you're doing. Ethan Winters.
Get ready.
Ethan is supposed to be the special guest in a human fox hunt, and I don't know what purpose that serves, other than it being a neat set piece. This Heisenberg dude also knows Ethan by name. So what is this? Am I the chosen one? Are they toying with me because they need me for something? I don't know.
2, 1, showtime!
So now we have to run down a linear path and get beat around by giants and evade spiky ceiling traps until we find ourselves face to face with Dad.
I don't think I've let you get away.
This trap is so deadly it kills you even before Heisenberg finishes his speech. What am I supposed to do here? I can interact with the boxes, but nothing happens. I can't hug the wall to be safe. I can't get back up. This is fun. You're actually supposed to find this little nook in the wall behind you. That is never, 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 never a safe hiding place from the spiky rolling pin of doom. Look how far the spikes reach into here. And why aren't my hands crushed to dust? We've already established that this game doesn't care for the well-being of Ethan's hands. Heisenberg seems to assume that Ethan is dead, and why wouldn't he? And all the Lycans went home so Ethan can walk out of here in peace. And I don't understand why. It's not that Heisenberg really counted on the Crushinator to kill Ethan. Because there were more rooms with deadly traps after that one. And Heisenberg was able to monitor Ethan in some way or another. So why didn't he notice Ethan crawling out from under the spiky thing? Well, no time to think about that, here's the Duke. Who was named after the original Xbox controller, I believe. Which was just slightly bigger and heavier than this dude. This is the merchant of this game. Capcom wanted to recreate the iconic character of the merchant in the RE4, and so they gave us Fatso here. Who is fine. I like the guy, but they tried to give him this huge personality, and I tell you right now, there is no satisfying payoff or explanation when it comes to that guy. Well, that pretty much goes for all the major characters in this game. But I guess I deal with them when the time comes. It's a bit sad because in my head I have this story about a collective of entrepreneurs, maybe even with the connection to Umbrella, who are all monster men of some kind, but they're the good ones, so they help the heroes in a way they know best. Capitalism. The Duke functions pretty much the same as the merchant in RE4. You can buy and sell items and weapons, or even more inventory space, upgrade the guns you hold, and even sell treasure you find all over the game. And this time the game is nice enough to tell you when treasures can be combined to be even more valuable. You can also buy crafting recipes from him, because they expanded on the crafting system of 7 and the newish remakes. So you find scrap metal and gunpowder, herbs and good old chemical fluid to craft ammunition and healing. So yeah, just you know, we just met the most helpful person in the whole game, and all he does is sitting in his cart, smoking or sleeping and taking our money. I really like the guy. But now, let's not waste any more time and enter the castle. And it's quite a nice castle. I really get strong RE4 vibes from it, and with that I will stop comparing these two games. There are more throwbacks or rip-offs or whatever you want to call it, and there are even more references to other horror games. And I'll never finish this little project if I stop and mention RE4 every 2 minutes. So I get strong RE1 vibes from this. This decadent and extravagant castle with lots of corridors leading to locked doors. For now. I guess now the game really starts and we have to slowly open up all the different areas of the castle, face the 4 creepy lords as they are called, and maybe even get back to the village because there are still some places I haven't been able to reach yet. Yeah, sure. For now we are captured by strange bug ladies and dragged through the hallways. Come on, ladies, stop it.
Man blood.
Mother, I bring you fresh prey.
They present Ethan to Lady Generic Slavic Name, who calls him by his full name and then sucks his wrist, and isn't too impressed by his man taste.
Well, Ethan Winters. You escaped my little brother's idiot games, did you? Let's see how special you are.
Yes, Mother.
Yes, Mother. Starting to go a little stale.
Then let's devour his man-flesh quickly, Mother.
I am the one who captured him.
Now, daughters. First, I must inform Mother Miranda.
But since good blood is hard to come by these days, she decides to lock him up in her room while she reports to Mother Miranda. And to keep Ethan from escaping, they tie him up and cuff his hands. Nah, just kidding. They ram hooks through his hands and let him hang from the ceiling. Wow, this guy gets fucked up so bad so early in the game that it loses all impact or meaning.
Oh, be careful what you wish for, Ethan Winters.
Wait, what are you doing?
What a weird bunch. Well, only one way out of this predicament. Alright, let's go!